The shuttle was small. Too small, the aliens thought, for a species trying to join the greatest political body in the galaxy. It docked at Bay 17 of the Council Station without ceremony, without escort, without the grand display that other species brought when they came begging for membership. Inside the shuttle, Kang Jae adjusted his tie in the mirror. The fabric was black silk. His suit was perfectly tailored, cut close to his body, hiding nothing and everything at the same time. He checked his cufflinks twice. Silver, simple. His father had given them to him 30 years ago, before his first mission, before he became the man whose name was spoken in whispers in military halls across Earth. "Ambassador," said Yoon Hana from behind him. She was young, barely 30, but her eyes held the sharpness of someone who had seen too much. "The council representatives are waiting." They seem amused. Jay smiled softly. It was the smile he always wore, polite, calm, empty of threat. Let them be amused. Amusement makes people careless. He picked up his briefcase. It was small, black leather, unremarkable. He had carried it through 40 star systems. It had been with him in places where death was the only language spoken. Today, it held only documents, official papers, a tablet computer. Nothing dangerous at all. Hana opened the shuttle door. The air of the council station rushed in, filtered and recycled, carrying the mixed scents of 47 different species. Some smelled like flowers. Some smelled like rotting meat. Jay had learned long ago to breathe through his mouth. They walked down the docking corridor together. Alien eyes watched them from every corner. Some species stood 8 feet tall, with scales covering their bodies. Others floated in anti-gravity spheres, their bodies too fragile for normal movement. A group of insectoid creatures clicked their mandibles as Jay passed, their compound eyes following his every step. "Look at them," one of the tall, scaled aliens said to his companion. His voice was loud enough for Jay to hear. This was intentional. Humans. Barely 1,000 years of civilization. They still fight wars among themselves. His companion laughed. The sound was wet and unpleasant. Their lifespan is less than 100 cycles. What can such short-lived creatures understand about the galaxy? Jay kept walking. His smile never changed. They reached the main concourse of the station. It was vast, a cathedral of metal and light, designed to make visitors feel small. Banners hung from the ceiling, each one representing a member species of the council. There was no banner for humanity. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. A group of officials waited at the center of the concourse. They wore the formal robes of the council, elaborate garments covered in symbols of rank and achievement. At their head stood a creature named Reth. He was the commander of council security, a position of immense power. His species was known for their strength, their thick armor-like skin, and their absolute belief in their own superiority. "Ambassador Kang," Reth said. He did not bow. He did not offer any gesture of respect. "You are smaller than I expected." Jay bowed slightly. "Commander Reth, thank you for receiving us. Humanity is honored by your attention." Reth's eyes narrowed. He was looking for an insult in the words, searching for some hidden meaning. He found none. Jay's tone was perfectly sincere, perfectly humble, perfectly controlled. "Follow me," Reth said finally. "The Overlord has granted you an audience. Do not waste his time." They walked through the station. Everywhere Jay looked, he saw the wealth and power of the galaxy on display. Holographic art installations worth more than entire Earth cities. Technology that humans had only dreamed of. Species that had traveled between stars when humans were still living in caves. And everywhere, he saw the same thing in alien eyes. Contempt, dismissal, the absolute certainty that humans were nothing. A young species. A weak species. A species that would be absorbed or destroyed within a few generations. Good, Jay thought. Let them believe it. They reached a private waiting room. Reth gestured for them to enter, then left without another word. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. Hana immediately swept the room with a small device hidden in her sleeve. Clean, she said. No listening devices I can detect. But assume we are being watched anyway. Jay sat down in one of the chairs. It was designed for a much larger species, and his feet barely touched the floor. He did not seem bothered by this. What have you learned? He asked. Hana sat across from him, her voice dropping to a whisper. Intelligence was correct. The Council has already decided to reject humanity's application. But it is worse than we thought. Overlord Varn plans to declare human colonies in 3 systems as unprotected territory. He will open them for seizure by other species. The Kepler colonies, Jay said. It was not a question. Yes, 12 million humans. They will claim we have no legal right to those systems. They will send their fleets. Jay was quiet for a long moment. His hands rested on his briefcase, perfectly still. A stranger might have thought he was calm. Hannah knew better. She had seen this stillness before. It was the stillness of a predator before the strike. Then we proceed as planned, he said finally. Before Hana could respond, the door opened again. A different alien entered. She was smaller than most Council species, with silver skin and large dark eyes. Her name was Kira, and she was a senator from a minor world. She looked nervous. Ambassador Kong, she said quickly, glancing behind her. I should not be here. If they knew I was speaking to you, double quotes, Senator Kira. Jay stood and bowed respectfully. Please sit. You have nothing to fear from us. Kira remained standing. I came to warn you. Overlord Varn hates your species. He believes humans are dangerous, that you breed too quickly, expand too fast. He will not simply reject your application. He means to make an example of you. Tomorrow, in the Grand Assembly, we will be arrested, Jay finished for her. Kira's eyes widened. You know? We suspected. Jay's smile remained unchanged. But I thank you for confirming it. Your courage will not be forgotten. Kira shook her head. You do not understand. Varn has ordered Commander Reth to use force if necessary. Your people will be detained. Your colonies will be seized. Humanity will be broken before you even begin. Jay picked up his briefcase. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, hidden in the darkness of a nearby nebula, 50 warships waited in perfect silence. Somewhere on this station, 37 human operatives had already taken their positions. And somewhere in his memory, 200 operations played out like old films, each one ending the same way. Senator, he said softly, humanity always comes prepared. Hana moved to the door and transmitted a coded message to Earth. 3 words. The ambassador is ready. The first phase was complete. Tomorrow. The galaxy would learn what happened when they pushed humanity too far. Tomorrow. They would meet the man who wore death like a suit. The Grand Assembly Hall was built to intimidate. Its ceiling rose 300 meters high, covered in lights that mimicked the stars of 1,000 conquered worlds. The floor was black marble, imported from a dead planet, polished until it reflected like dark water. And at the center of it all, arranged in a vast circle, sat the representatives of 47 species. Kong Jay walked into the hall alone. His footsteps echoed in the silence. Every eye watched him. Every alien measured him and found him wanting. He was small. He was soft. His species was young and foolish and weak. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. They died easily and quickly, their brief lives flickering out like candle flames. and yet he walked without fear. At the far end of the hall, on a throne carved from crystal, sat Overlord Varn. He was ancient by any standard, his gray skin wrinkled with age, his 3 eyes clouded, but still sharp with intelligence. He had ruled the council for 200 years. He had crushed rebellions, ended wars, and brought entire species to their knees. A single human diplomat did not concern him at all. "Ambassador Kong," Varn said. His voice boomed through the hall, amplified by hidden speakers. "You stand before the Galactic Council to present humanity's request for membership. Speak." Jay bowed deeply. "Overlord Varn, honored representatives, I thank you for this opportunity. Humanity seeks nothing but peaceful cooperation with the great species of this council. We wish to trade, to learn, to grow alongside our galactic neighbors. We offer our friendship and our resources in exchange for enough." Varn raised one withered hand. The single word silenced Jay instantly. "We have heard your words, Ambassador. We have studied your species, and we have reached our decision." Varn leaned forward, his 3 eyes gleaming with something that might have been pleasure. "Humanity's application for membership is denied." A murmur ran through the hall. Some species nodded in approval. Others watched with curiosity. A few, like Senator Kira in her distant seat, looked away in shame. Jay did not react. His face remained calm. His posture remained respectful. "May I ask the reason for this decision, Overlord?" "You may." Varn stood slowly, his ancient bones creaking. "Humanity is a disease. You breed without control. You expand without permission. In less than 300 years, you have claimed 17 star systems. 17. Species 10 times your age have claimed fewer. You are locusts, Ambassador. You consume everything you touch." "We have harmed no one," Jay said quietly. "Every system we have settled was empty. Why? We have started no wars. We have threatened no species. You threatened us simply by existing." Varn's voice rose with genuine anger. "Your military vessels patrol your borders in numbers that rival our own fleets. You refuse to share your weapons technology. You treat other species as equals when you should bow before your betters." The hall erupted in agreement. Aliens shouted approval, stamped their feet, clicked their claws. The noise was deafening. Jay waited until it faded. "I urge the council to reconsider," he said. His voice was still soft, still controlled, but something in it had changed. There was a weight to his words now, a gravity that made the closest aliens lean back in their seats. "This path leads somewhere none of you wish to go." Varn laughed. It was an ugly sound, filled with contempt. A threat? From a creature who could not survive a single blow from Commander Reth? He gestured to the side of the hall, where Reth stood with his arms crossed. "Your arrogance is amusing, human. But it will not save you." Jay said nothing. "The council has made a second decision," Varn continued. "The human colonies in the Kepler systems have been declared unprotected territory. They will be redistributed to more deserving species, effective immediately. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." For the first time, something flickered in Jay's eyes. It was gone almost instantly, hidden behind his diplomatic mask, but Kira saw it from her seat. It looked like sadness. It looked like resignation. It looked like the expression of a man who had hoped for peace and knew he would not find it. 12 million people, Jay said. Women, children, families who have built lives in those systems. You would take their homes? They should have stayed on their dying world, Varn replied. They reached too far. Now they will learn the cost of human ambition. Jay closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, the sadness was gone. In its place was something empty, something cold. "I must inform you," he said, that humanity cannot accept these terms. Varn smiled. I thought you might say that. He raised his hand and made a signal. The doors of the Grand Assembly Hall burst open. Commander Reth strode in at the head of 12 armed guards. They were the elite of Council security, each one chosen for their strength and brutality. Their weapons were drawn. Their armor gleamed under the artificial stars. Kong Jie, Reth announced, you are under arrest for crimes against the Galactic Council. You will surrender immediately and submit to detention. Any resistance will be punished with death. The hall fell silent. Every alien watched, eager to see the human break, to see him beg, to see him crumble before superior force. Jie did not move. Reth approached him, stopping only when they were face to face. The commander towered over the human ambassador, his massive form blocking out the light. He reached out and grabbed Jie's shoulder with one armored hand. Your species is finished, Reth said. Your colonies will burn. Your people will serve as slaves. And you will watch it all from a prison cell, knowing that you could do nothing to stop it. Jie looked at the hand on his shoulder. Then he looked up, meeting Reth's eyes. Commander, he said softly, you have made a serious mistake. At that exact moment, every light in the Grand Assembly Hall flickered. The holographic displays died. The communication systems went silent. Somewhere in the depths of the station, Yoon Hana had activated the blackout. The galaxy had just cut itself off from the outside universe. And in the sudden darkness, Kang Jie smiled, but it was not the polite smile he had worn before. It was not the diplomatic expression of a man seeking peace. It was the smile of something old and patient and absolutely lethal. Let me tell you something about humans, Commander, Jie said. His voice had dropped to a whisper, but somehow it carried through the entire hall. We are not strong. We are not fast. We do not have armor or claws or venom. But we have something your species never developed. We have 10,000 years of learning how to kill things bigger than ourselves. Reth tightened his grip on Jie's shoulder. You are a lone human. What can one weak creature do against the might of the Council? Jie looked past Reth at the 12 guards behind him. He looked at the hundreds of alien representatives watching from their seats. He looked at Overlord Varn on his crystal throne, then he looked back at Reth. Allow me to show you. What happened next would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for centuries. Commander Reth was considered one of the finest warriors his species had ever produced. His reaction time was legendary. His armor could stop plasma fire. He had killed enemies in single combat more times than he could count. He never saw Jie move. One moment, the human ambassador was standing still, Reth's hand on his shoulder. The next moment, Reth was on the ground, his arm bent at an impossible angle, a scream tearing from his throat. Jie stood over him, his expression unchanged, his suit still perfectly pressed. The 12 guards froze in shock. In their entire lives, they had never seen their commander fall. They had never imagined it was possible. That hesitation lasted exactly 2 seconds. It was enough. Jie's briefcase hit the floor and snapped open. Inside were 2 weapons that should not have existed. The first was a compact plasma pistol, modified beyond anything Council technology could produce. The second was a neural disruptor, a device banned by 17 treaties, capable of shutting down an organic nervous system with a single pulse. The first guard died before he could raise his weapon. The plasma bolt burned through his chest armor like it was paper. The second guard managed to fire, but Jie was no longer where he had been standing. He moved like water, like shadow, like something that had learned to fight in the darkness between stars. The third and fourth guards attacked together. It did not help. Jie slipped between them, his movements too fast for eyes adapted to slower prey. The neural disruptor touched the third guard's neck and he collapsed, his body shutting down instantly. The fourth guard swung his weapon like a club, desperate, terrified. Jay caught the blow with his bare hand, twisted, and sent the guard crashing into his companions. 5 seconds. 4 guards down. The remaining 8 opened fire simultaneously. Plasma bolts filled the air, burning hot lines through the darkness of the hall. Any normal creature would have been vaporized. Jay was not there, that he had predicted their firing patterns. He had calculated their reaction times. He had found the gaps in their formation before they even knew gaps existed. While they fired at where he had been, he was already moving, already striking, already ending lives with mechanical precision. A strike to a nerve cluster. A disruptor pulse to the brain stem. A plasma bolt through an unarmored joint. Each movement was perfect. Each death was instant. There was no wasted motion. No hesitation. No mercy dot in the audience. Aliens who had lived for centuries watched in frozen terror. They had never seen violence like this. Their wars were fought with fleets and armies, with overwhelming numbers and superior technology. They did not understand what they were seeing. They were watching a predator, not the kind of predator that hunted with strength, that overpowered its prey through size and power. They were watching the other kind, the kind that evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill it, the kind that learned to be clever, to be patient, to strike at the perfect moment and disappear before retaliation could come. They were watching what happened when 10,000 years of human warfare were compressed into a single body. The last guard fell. The whole thing had taken 11 seconds. Kung Jae stood in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall, surrounded by bodies. His suit was still perfect. Not a wrinkle, not a stain, not a single hair out of place. Only his eyes had changed. They were empty now, cold as the space between stars. He turned to face Overlord Varn. The ancient ruler had not moved from his throne. His 3 eyes were wide with something he had not felt in 2 centuries. Fear. Pure, primal fear. "What are you?" Varn whispered. Jay walked toward the throne. His footsteps echoed in the silent hall. Behind him, Commander Ref groaned and tried to rise. Jay did not look back. Ref was no longer a threat. Ref had never been a threat. "My people call me by another name," Jay said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Before I was an ambassador, I was something else. I was the one they sent when talking had failed. I was the solution to problems that had no other solution." He stopped at the base of the throne, looking up at Varn. "I am what happens when humanity stops asking nicely." Varn's hand moved toward a hidden panel in his throne. A communication device that could summon reinforcements from anywhere on the station. "Do not bother," said a voice from the speaker's dot. It was Yoon Hana. Her voice was calm, professional, completely devoid of fear. "All communications on this station have been disabled," she continued. "Defense systems are offline. Docking bay controls have been transferred to human command. The council station now belongs to Earth." Varn's hand froze. "You are lying," he said. "This station has the most advanced security in the galaxy. One woman could not—" "She is not one woman," Jay interrupted. "She is one of 37. Every human on this station is a trained operative. Your security never noticed because you never looked. You were so certain of your superiority that you never imagined we might be hiding among you." He gestured to the representatives in their seats. Several of them had risen, moving toward the exits. None of them had noticed the humans standing quietly at each door. Service workers, maintenance staff, low-ranking translators. All of them now held weapons. "The shuttle I arrived in," Jay continued, "is carrying enough firepower to destroy this station's core. I have had my finger on the trigger since I walked through your doors. One command from me, and everyone here dies. Varn gripped the arms of his throne. His ancient body was trembling. You would kill yourself as well. Jay smiled. It was the empty smile, the cold smile, the smile that had been the last thing 200 enemies had ever seen. Yes, he said simply. I would. That is something your species never understood about humans, Overlord. We are not afraid to die. We fear many things, but death is not one of them. We learned long ago that sometimes the only way to win is to be willing to lose everything. In her seat, Senator Kira watched with tears streaming down her silver face. She had warned them. She had begged them to listen. But they had been so arrogant, so certain of their own power. Now they were learning what humanity truly was, not a young species. Not a weak species, but a species forged in blood and fire, tempered by 10,000 years of war, hardened into something that the galaxy had never faced before, and standing at the center of it all, in his perfect black suit with his empty eyes and his gentle voice, was the man called Death. Here is what will happen now, Jay said to Varn. You will reverse every decision made against humanity. You will restore our colonies. You will grant us full membership in the Council. And you will do it publicly, so that every species in the galaxy sees your surrender. And if I refuse? Jay tilted his head slightly. Then I will kill everyone in this room, starting with you. My operatives will seize the station. And when the Galactic Council sends fleets to retake it, they will find something waiting for them in the darkness. Something that has been hiding there for a very long time. He leaned closer to Varn, his voice dropping to a whisper that only the Overlord could hear. We call it the Silent Fleet. 50 warships, hidden in the nebula 3 light years from here. They have been waiting for 6 months. They are very, very patient. And they are very, very eager to show the galaxy what human weapons can do. Varn's 3 eyes closed. His shoulders sagged. In that moment, he looked every one of his centuries. What do you want me to say? He asked, defeated. Jay straightened his tie. His smile returned to its diplomatic warmth. The truth, Overlord. Simply tell them the truth. Humanity came in peace, and you made the mistake of answering with war. The darkness of space held many secrets, but none greater than what emerged from the Veil Nebula that day. Admiral Choi Tay stood on the bridge of the battleship Silent Dawn, watching the tactical display as 50 warships decloaked simultaneously. They appeared like ghosts, materializing from nothing, their hulls black as the void itself, their weapons already powered and locked on target. The Council Defense Fleet had been positioned around the station in a standard, protective formation. 300 ships, the finest the galaxy could produce, crewed by species who had fought wars for millennia before humans learned to make fire. They never stood a chance. Admiral, said his tactical officer, the Council fleet is attempting to establish communication. They are requesting our surrender. Tay almost smiled. Almost. How many of their ships have weapons lock on us? All of them, sir. And how many of their ships have our weapons locked on their bridge sections, engine cores, and ammunition storage? The tactical officer checked his display twice before answering. All of them, sir. Tay nodded. Open a channel. Let them hear what humanity has to say. The communication systems activated. Across 300 Council ships, crews stopped what they were doing and listened. This is Admiral Choi Tay of the Earth Defense Force, Tay said. His voice was calm, measured, carrying the weight of absolute certainty. Your station has been secured by human operatives. Your leaders are in custody. Your fleet is surrounded. He paused, letting the words sink in. We have no wish to destroy you. We came to your council seeking peace, and we still prefer peace. But understand this clearly. We are not afraid of war. Every weapon on your ships has a human-designed counter. Every tactic your admirals might employ has been studied, analyzed, and defeated in our simulations. You are not facing a young species that stumbled into space by accident. You are facing a species that clawed its way to the stars through blood and sacrifice. In the Council flagship, the alien admiral gripped his command chair until his claws left marks in the metal. "If you fire on us," Tay continued, "we will respond. And when the battle ends, there will be no Council fleet left to protect your homeworlds. Think carefully about what happens next." The channel closed. Silence filled the void. For 17 minutes, nothing happened. Council ships held their positions. Human ships held theirs. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Then, one by one, the Council ships powered down their weapons inside the station. Overlord Varn's surrender was broadcast across every communication network in known space. His voice shook as he read the statement Kang Jae had written for him. Every word was a humiliation. Every sentence admitted a failure. The great Galactic Council, ruler of 1,000 worlds, had attacked a peaceful diplomat and had been brought to its knees by a single species it had dismissed as insignificant. Director Park Soo watched the broadcast from Earth's command center, her face unreadable. She had planned this operation for 3 years. Every detail, every contingency, every possible outcome had been mapped and prepared for. But even she had not expected it to work this perfectly. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered, across the galaxy. Humanity revealed the true depth of its preparations. On the Council station, 37 operatives secured key positions simultaneously. Engineering fell in 4 minutes. Life support in 6. The Weapons Control Center lasted longest. 11 minutes of fierce resistance before the alien defenders realized they were fighting humans who had trained. For this specific facility, Yoon Hana coordinated everything from her hidden position in the communication hub. Her voice never wavered, never rushed, never showed any sign of stress. She issued orders like a conductor leading an orchestra, and her agents responded with perfect precision. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the alien representatives watched in horrified silence as their entire power structure crumbled. Guards were disarmed. Officials were detained. Escape routes were blocked by humans who had been invisible servants just hours before. Senator Kira stood near the back of the hall, watching Kang Jae. He had not moved from his position near Varn's throne. His weapon was holstered now, his hands clasped behind his back, his expression returned to diplomatic neutrality. He looked like a man attending a formal dinner, not a man who had just single-handedly defeated a dozen elite warriors. She approached him carefully. "Ambassador Kang," she said, "I must ask, how long have you been planning this?" Jay turned to her. His eyes were still cold, but something in them softened slightly when he looked at her. "Since the day we received the Council's invitation to apply for membership," he said. "We knew you would reject us. We knew you would try to take our colonies. We knew you would underestimate us, because every species that has ever encountered humanity has made the same mistake. You could have warned us. You could have shown us your true strength before. Would you have listened?" Kira fell silent. She knew the answer. The Council had been so certain of its own superiority that no warning would have been believed. They had to see it. They had to feel it. They had to understand in their bones what humanity truly was. "We did not want this," Jay said quietly. "I did not want this. Every death today weighs on me. But your leaders gave us no choice. When someone threatens 12 million of our people, we respond. That is not cruelty. That is survival." Commander Reth was being carried past them on a stretcher. His arm had been set, his wounds treated by human medics who had appeared from nowhere. He glared at Jay with pure hatred. "This is not over," Reth hissed. The Council will gather its full might. We will crush your pathetic species. Jay looked at him with something that might have been pity. Commander, the full might of the Council was already here. 300 ships. Your elite guard. Your overlord himself. He gestured around the hall. Look around you. Look at what one operation achieved against your full might. Now imagine what happens when humanity truly goes to war. Reth had no answer. He was carried away in silence. Outside the station, Admiral Tay received confirmation that all objectives had been achieved. He allowed himself a small moment of satisfaction. 3 years of planning, 6 months of positioning, and 11 minutes of combat. The most powerful political body in the galaxy had been humbled without a single ship being destroyed. Sir, his communications officer said, Director Park is requesting a status update. Tay straightened his uniform. Tell her Phase 3 is complete. The Council has surrendered. The station is ours. A pause. Then, Sir, she's asking about Phase 4. Tay looked out the viewport at the Council fleet, floating helplessly before his guns. In any other species' history, this would be the moment for revenge, for destruction, for teaching the enemy a lesson they would never forget. But humanity had learned a different lesson long ago. Victory was not about destruction. Victory was about making sure the war never happened again. Tell her we proceed as planned. Minimum casualties. Maximum impact. We're not here to conquer them. He paused. We're here to make them understand. In the Grand Assembly Hall, Overlord Varn finished his broadcast. His voice faded into silence. His throne, which had seemed so mighty just hours before, now looked like nothing more than an empty chair. Kang Jay stepped forward and addressed the stunned representatives. The Council will be reformed, he announced. Humanity will take its place among you, not as a subject species, but as an equal partner. The old hierarchy, based on age and perceived superiority, ends today. From this moment forward, every species will be judged by its actions, not its history. He paused, letting his words echo through the hall. We do not seek revenge. We do not want war. But we will not accept being treated as less than we are. Humanity earned its place in the stars through sacrifice and struggle. We will not have that place taken from us by arrogance and prejudice. He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, Yoon Hana fell into step, her expression calm. Her briefcase now holding the signed surrender documents. As they reached the door, Jay stopped and looked back one final time. Remember this day, he said. Remember what happened when you underestimated humanity. And remember that we chose to show mercy. The door closed behind him. The reckoning was complete. 3 months had passed since the day the galaxy changed. The Council station had been rebuilt, its halls repaired, its systems restored. But nothing about it felt the same. Where once the banners of 47 species had hung in careful order of seniority, now they hung together, equal in height, equal in honor. And among them, in a place of prominence, flew the flag of Earth. Kang Jay stood at the window of humanity's new embassy, looking out at the stars. He wore a simple gray suit today, softer than his usual black, more relaxed. His briefcase sat on a shelf, gathering dust. He had not touched it since that day in the Grand Assembly Hall. Behind him, Yoon Hana was organizing the final details of his retirement ceremony. She moved with the same precise efficiency she always had, but there was a lightness to her now, a freedom that had not been there before. The guests are arriving, she said. Representatives from 38 species have confirmed attendance. Even the ones who opposed us. They are not our enemies, Jay replied without turning from the window. They never were. They were simply afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of losing their place in the order of things. He paused. I understand that fear. I have felt it myself. Hannah stopped what she was doing. In all the years she had worked with him, she had never heard him speak of fear. When? She asked. Jay was quiet for a long moment. Then he pointed out the window toward a distant cluster of stars, barely visible against the void. There, he said, the Kepler colonies. 12 million people. When Varn announced that they would be seized, I felt something I had not felt in many years. Terror. Pure, absolute terror that I would fail. That despite everything we had planned, everything we had prepared, those people would suffer because I was not good enough. But you succeeded. This time. He finally turned to face her. For the first time, she saw something in his eyes that looked like weariness. Like age, like the weight of too many battles fought and too many lives taken. I have been doing this for 30 years, Hannah. 30 years of being the person humanity sends when all other options have failed. I have done things that no one should ever have to do. And I have told myself that it was necessary, that it was right, that the lives I saved were worth the lives I took. He walked to a chair and sat down heavily. But there comes a point when a weapon must be retired, when the soldier must become something else. I have reached that point. The ceremony took place in the same Grand Assembly Hall where Jay had made his stand. The irony was not lost on anyone. Species who had once mocked humanity now sat in respectful silence as Ambassador Kang Jay received the formal thanks of 38 worlds. Overlord Varn was conspicuously absent, having retired in disgrace, his power broken beyond repair. In his place, a new council leadership had emerged, one that included humans at every level. Senator Kira spoke first. Her silver skin glowed under the lights as she addressed the assembly. 3 months ago, I warned Ambassador Kong that our council planned to betray humanity. I did so because I believed it was wrong, but also because I feared what humanity might do in response. She paused, looking directly at Jay. I was right to fear, but I was wrong about the nature of that fear. I thought humans would be vengeful, brutal, that they would use their victory to crush us as we had planned to crush them. She shook her head slowly. Instead, they offered mercy. They offered partnership. They showed us that strength does not require cruelty, that power does not demand oppression. In doing so, they taught us something our ancient civilizations had forgotten, that the measure of a species is not how it treats those weaker than itself, but how it treats those who have wronged it. The applause was genuine. Jay accepted it with his usual diplomatic smile, but those who knew him well could see the emotion hidden beneath the surface. When it was his turn to speak, he stood slowly. For a moment, he simply looked out at the gathered representatives, taking in faces of beings he had studied, planned against, and ultimately spared. Then he did something no one expected. He removed his suit jacket. Beneath it, his arms were bare. And covering those arms, from wrist to shoulder, were scars and tattoos that told the story of 30 years of service. Combat marks, unit insignia, the names of operations that had never officially happened, written in codes that only a handful of people could read. A gasp ran through the assembly. They had known, intellectually, what Kong Jay had been before he was a diplomat. But seeing the evidence written on his body made it real in a way words never could. I have worn suits for 15 years, Jay said quietly. They became my armor, my disguise, a way to hide what I truly am from those I was sent to negotiate with. He laid the jacket over the back of his chair. But today, I have no more need for hiding. Today, I show you what I am, so that you may understand what humanity is. He held up his scarred arms. We are not a peaceful species. Our history is written in blood. We have fought each other for resources, for territory, for ideas, for things so petty that we ourselves can barely remember them. We have developed weapons capable of destroying our own world, and we came closer to using them than any of you will ever know." His voice dropped lower. "But we are also a species that learns, that grows, that takes the worst parts of ourselves and tries again and again to become better. Every scar on my body represents a failure of diplomacy, a moment when words were not enough and violence became necessary. I carry them as reminders of what happens when we stop trying to understand each other." He lowered his arms. "Humanity does not seek war, but we have learned across our long and bloody history that peace must sometimes be earned with sacrifice, that freedom must sometimes be defended with force, and that mercy, true mercy, is not the absence of strength, but the choice not to use it." The hall was silent. Not the hostile silence of 3 months ago, but something deeper, something like respect. "I am retiring from diplomatic service," Jay continued. "My work here is done, but humanity's work has just begun. We have much to learn from the species of this council, and we have much to teach. I hope that the lessons we exchange will be ones of cooperation, of discovery, of shared growth. But if they are not—" He smiled. It was not the cold smile or the diplomatic smile. It was a real smile, tired but genuine. "Well, you have seen what we are capable of when pushed. I suggest you do not push again." The ceremony ended. Guests departed. The Grand Assembly Hall slowly emptied until only 2 people remained. Yoon Hannah stood at the entrance, waiting. She wore a simple black suit now, tailored perfectly to her frame. Beside her sat a small briefcase, black leather, unremarkable. "The council has approved your appointment," Jay said, walking toward her. "Ambassador Yoon Hannah. It suits you." Hannah inclined her head. "I learned from the best. You learned from a weapon. Now you must become something better. A bridge, a builder, someone who creates rather than destroys." He stopped in front of her and placed his hand briefly on her shoulder. "The galaxy is watching. Show them what humanity can be when we are not forced to fight." She nodded. "I will try. That is all any of us can do." He walked past her, toward the exit. At the door, he paused and looked back one final time. "There is a saying that has spread through the galaxy since our incident here. They call me the man who wore death like a suit." He shook his head slightly. "I hope, in time, humanity will be known for something else. Something better. What would you prefer?" Jay considered the question. The species that chose peace, even when war was easier. The species that offered its hand instead of its fist. He opened the door. The species that proved that strength and kindness are not opposites, but partners. And then he was gone. Hannah stood alone in the great hall, surrounded by the banners of 48 species. Somewhere in the station, an alien child was asking her parent about the humans, about the stories she had heard, about the ambassador who had defeated an army with his bare hands, and the parent was answering with words that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. "They are dangerous," the parent said. "Perhaps the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. But they are also fair. They are also merciful. And if you treat them with respect, they will treat you the same way." The child thought about this. "And if we don't treat them with respect?" The parent shuddered. "Then remember this, little one. Remember it always." The parent pulled the child closer. "Death wears a suit, and humanity taught it how to dress." Somewhere far away, on a small farm on a quiet planet, a man in a gray suit was learning how to grow vegetables. His hands, scarred and deadly, were gentle with the seedlings. His eyes, once cold as space, were warm in the sunlight. Kang Jae was finally at peace. But if humanity ever needed him again, the suit was hanging in his closet, pressed, Ready. Waiting dot, just in case.